Hi everyone, I'm Tandy Gutierrez and welcome to your monthly tarot reading. So this month is December, and usually I do an overview for the month, but December 2017 is really just a big old Mercury retrograde. So the layout I'm going to use for today and for this month's reading is a Mercury retrograde reading. So for those of you who don't know, or you do know, you need a little reminder. What is Mercury retrograde? In popular culture, it's going to be like, all technology and messaging gets a little wonky. It can be more challenging to travel. It can be more challenging to get your message across or to communicate. Mercury is the messenger, the communicator, right? So in Mercury retrograde, there is always a silver lining, and it's all a matter of perspective and how you navigate it. Mercury retrograde happens typically 3 times a year. This year it was 4, so it's been a doozy of a year. It's an opportunity to slow down. One, it's a call to slow down. Do you really mean what you're gonna say? Do you really mean what you're gonna write? Do you really mean what you're doing in the world and what's being called out to you, okay? So it tends to get in the categories of messaging, communication, travel, and technology. Try running a tech business during Mercury retrograde. But I've really learned to embrace it in the last few years of going, just pause, just slow down. Things are bound to get kerfuffled. So how do we navigate that? And 2, what can you learn? So, Mercury retrograde is when, Mercury, the planet, appears to be moving backward in the sky. It's not moving backward, it just slows way down and it looks like it has stopped moving and everything else is going past it. So what it's doing is it retraces its steps, and then to get out of retrograde, it has to go over those steps again. So there will be repetition in themes for you in some capacity. And the things that come up in repetition, those are the things always to pay attention to, right? Where you're like, I keep tripping over this pair of shoelaces. Time to fix the shoelaces. By the 3rd time that you go over it, it's like, no, it's because you haven't learned your lesson yet, which is why it's repeating itself. So, holiday season, winter solstice. There's so many readings I can do this month. I'm not sure where I'm going to put them or how I'm going to get them done, but I really want to. I may do some Facebook Live stuff with them. But so for December, we'll focus on the retrograde because it begins December 3rd. It finishes December 22nd. But knowing that there's a shadow phase for 2 weeks before it starts and a shadow phase for 2 weeks after as we come out of it. So we're looking at the end of November, we would have been feeling it already then. And then it's going to carry into that first week of January a little bit. So again, don't freak out. Don't buy any electronics. That's kind of the thing. And you go, oh, it's holiday season. But just, don't stop living your life. Just have awareness and slow down. And just constantly ask yourself in this frustrating moment, in this disappointing moment, and it's mostly frustration. What can I learn? How can I navigate better? How can I pause and respond rather than react? Okay? And things are flying out. Here we go. I'm using the Rider-Waite deck today. It's like the most classic deck there is. I'm kind of moving around decks lately. I've just been called to do so. So it'll work the same as always. I'll talk you through it as I go. Show you the cards as we go. Okay. I also have an additional Oracle deck, the Soul Space Oracle deck, that I'm going to pull an extra card at the end. Okay, it's just kind of a beautiful addition to things. So, month of December, as we sort our way and navigate Mercury retrograde, what is this theme of this Mercury retrograde for us as a collective? So, it's a group reading. It may not resonate in detail for everybody, but we're all a collective consciousness, so there's something in it for each of us. 7 of Pentacles. Okay. So the theme of this Mercury retrograde is really about, it's somebody who's like it's what we reap, we sow. I always call the Pentacles the karma card. They are about abundance. They are about making and doing. They're the maker card, you know, the apprentice, the student into the banker kind of aspect. And our abundance is about our finances in this earthly plane. It's also about our health and our wellness. So it's all the good stuff of the good pieces, but it tends in my readings to really be about finances. And so the theme of this Mercury retrograde for us is going to be about, you know, being able to cultivate and harvest what we've put energy towards in the past, which is so strange and follows right off of the November readings, because typically, you know, we're headed into winter solstice this month, right? And so that's when everything dies and it's time to hibernate and it's time to contemplate and to think and to rest and to restore. That's the whole deal with winter, right? To be reborn anew in the spring. But the energy of November was very much about doing and seeing things come to fruition and going, and October was go time. And so now we're into December, and it's also a call to seeing things come to fruition and having it be time to harvest them. So this is usually, you know, these are your efforts. What are the things you've been working towards or making effort towards? It can be very much directed towards your finances and business and career, or it can be focused towards your health. So if you work out with me on Mat and Kitchen, it's like, have you been diligent about getting on your mat? And this is the time, you know, that you're going to see the reward of your efforts prior in the physical body, because it takes time for physical body to catch up, right? So, interesting, because 7 is also what I call the self-help number. People think lucky number 7. 7, you know, but luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So that all that luck is like people who have been diligently toiling away in the background and nobody sees or knows about them. And then that moment happens, that one introduction, that one opportunity, or the 14 opportunities that all of a sudden come through, you know, you get to reap the reward of that. That's a pretty cool Mercury retrograde theme. So so this idea of going back over things and going over them again and going slower in your communications is that, you know, if you're really working towards a full effort of something coming to fruition, and it's getting this very clear sign of finances, you know, this can be a very stressfully financial, you know, time period with all the gift giving. You don't have to get caught up in it, right? That's a false mentality. So there's no requirement of gift giving and spending money during the holidays, but it's this idea of going back over past messaging, past beliefs, going slow about, do I really need to do this? Do I want to do this? It's usually about want. You know, don't get caught up in that I have to do this for this person. I have to do this for this person. That's just a terrible way to live and a terrible way to generate good energy. So this is about, what can I do? What do I want to do? And really looking at that in respect to work endeavors. You know, what will reap rewards are the things that you want to do and the things that you love to do. Doing them out of simply, you know, that you have to or you're expected to, that's a hard sell and doesn't usually work, right? So this is about doing the things that you love to do, watching something you love come to fruition because you've really toiled away at it in quiet. Nobody saw you doing it, which is why it's going to be beautiful and it works, because it was just all about that endeavor of love that finally comes to fruition. That's super cool. Okay, what are the subconscious blocks? So anytime that there's a frustration or an issue for us, there's a learning opportunity. That's why it's hard, because there's something big to learn from it and something useful for us. And that's typically, you know, and they come from blocks either from the subconscious, like we're not even really aware of it, but there's some sort of thinking pattern or cellular memory. A lot of this has to do with our ancestral history. And I think as a country and a culture in the US, we are going through it. Like, there is cellular memory from our ancestors through our bloodlines. It's energetic, it's there. So the things that your ancestors suffered through, you carry to a certain extent. There's a huge call to healing right now for all of us. So take a moment, if you know your ancestral line, just be aware of what those things are. Just look at your family. What are the things that your family has been afraid of for generations or has instilled fear or frustration with? That's a block, right? And then go, do I still carry that? I don't have to carry that. I can go put that down. I'm carrying my own stuff. So there's subconscious blocks, there's mental blocks, and we're going to get to those two things because that's the culmination, right? Like, what are you thinking that's really like not useful to the situation, and the subconscious things that you might not be aware of that you carry with you that are really blocking evolution, transition, abundance, fruition, opportunities. And opportunities are about love also, and relationships, and supportive, loving relationships, and whole relationships. So what are the subconscious blocks? 3 of Pentacles. 3 of Pentacles is usually this kind of like convergence, right? It's a celebration, but it's also a coming together of all of the elements. It's a sharing and caring kind of thing. So there is a subconscious block about everything coming to support you, about the faith in miracles. So you have to believe, like, you ask people if they believe in miracles. Some people just flat out say no, and you're like, well, okay, that wasn't subconscious at all. You're clear that you don't, that's a block. But other people do believe in miracles, but they often believe in them for somebody else, for everybody else. I'm not worthy. That's a no, right? So the subconscious block here is really saying that you don't, one, believe as a group here, collective. Like, I don't need to point fingers at individual people because I don't even know who's watching individually. That the subconscious blocks of that you don't believe people will come together to support you. So you don't believe in the miracle of gathering and uplifting for you. That you tend to believe it for other people. So there's also this thing about the power of 3, right? Mind, body, spirit. The triad, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Like the 3s. And I'm a big fan of like the power of 3 women and partnerships, you know, or 3 partners in something that's powerful because it builds a triangle, and a triangle amplifies, right? It takes the base and then it goes like out the top and kind of creates a laser. So wherever there are 3 direct energies together, it's intense on something and can really bring something to fruition. So the subconscious block here is, you know, the twofold. One, that you don't really believe in miracles, that you believe in them for other people, but not really for yourself, that somehow there's been this subconscious unworthiness piece to things, that I am unworthy of a miracle. We are all children of God. We're all stardust. We are all worthy of many miracles. But we have to first believe that we're worth them. That doesn't mean anybody else is any less. We're actually all amazing and fantastically great. But we have to honor that for ourselves. We can't just honor that for other people. And 2, a power of 3 coming together. So there's a subconscious block of you not feeling supported, or you think people won't come to the table for you. Like that you know, if you send the invites out, that everyone will say no. Well, okay, some people might have other plans or a conflict, but maybe they want to be there in spirit, and then they lend the energy to whatever it is you're doing. But this understanding, again, the universe conspires on your behalf. There are people out there that support you in a big way, and that you're either not asking for help, or they're offering it and you're thwarting it and you don't believe, or they're not coming forward with your help because energetically you're putting out there, I don't need help, I'm totally fine. So the subconscious block is about people coming to support you actively, that other people are interested in your wellness and in your fruition and in your greatness and in your miracle. And then also you not being blocked by thinking miracles are just for everybody else, okay? So what will be released in this Mercury retrograde? Meaning, you know, what can we let go of? Typically in the one-on-one readings and the general readings that I do, releasing usually means like what to give to the world. This one, it's got a very clear, like, what has been released, like what's already been given, what's already done. So, you know, yeah, it's already happened. And so this is just going to lend to actually to a much sweeter Mercury retrograde, not as frustrating. It's the World. World is a beautiful card. This is everything coming together, actually. You know, like the Anima Mundi, like the spirit and energy, everything together. And you've got this, you've got a Taurus bull. We've had a lot to do, you know, with Taurus season, and that the full moon was in Taurus. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself and I get real excited. I'm gonna slow down. So November, full moon was in Taurus, and it brings about, topics and issues of abundance and fruition and material possessions and your physical well-being. It's earthy. I'm Taurus sun. It's like super earthy and doing, and like longevity, and like you can't move a bull, you can't push it anywhere because it'll just sit down. We're stubborn like that. But there's real longevity to it. And in the card, you've got bull, you've got the lion, which just calls to Leo being in the North Node, that we're all going towards our heart's path. Everybody talks about their path, their journey, what's their purpose in life. The Leo node is about your purpose. Like, what do you love? What are you passionate about? What are you excited about? And so it pushes us in that direction with consistency and maybe some stubbornness, because that's always going to get you what you want if you just don't quit. And so what has been released, or what will be released and let go into the world in this Mercury retrograde, is this fruition, like this ending of a good way. Like, it's coming to fruition. The world is things coming together. That's the simplicity of it. I don't need to go further than that, because it is about things coming together. And it's kind of a funny thing too, because look, there's a little eagle up in the corner, and it's like, I'm in the US. I feel like there's just going to be a lot of coming together, that eagle of liberty, and, high visibility and high strategy, because they can see for so far and so long, that there's going to be a lot of transitions and changes in December in a constructive and healthy way, that things are going to start coming together rather than looking like everything's falling apart. There's clarity in that. Okay. So then mental blocks. I think this is so funny. It's December that we're, for our reading, but there's so many of the November themes that are just being carried over. So the mental blocks in this Mercury retrograde are the Hierophant. Okay, the Hierophant is two things. It's a lot of things. One, it's the card of the Taurus. So it's about the physical body being, clean and clear. It's about teachers, about having right teachers for you. The classic, interpretation of it is to be very aware of organized religions. Really, that's one. But about organizations in general. Anyone who's trying to absolutely convince you that you are right and someone else is wrong, that's a bit of a red flag, because there is duality in the world. What is right for you may not be right for me or for the next person. That doesn't make me or the next person wrong. This is about empathy. This is about coming together. This is about the world coming together and understanding that there are all kinds of different ways to approach things, right? One from stubbornness and longevity, one from the heart, one from the upper view, and then you've got, I keep seeing Zeus in this other space here of, the Greek god of, like, Zeus controlled everything. It's got a very, it's just that it's got a very control freak aspect to it, and ego, right? And you need a little bit of ego. It's constructive to move things forward. Otherwise you wouldn't wash your hair. I wouldn't put makeup on. Like, my ego takes care of me and presents me in the world well also, right? All of us. So the mental blocks are really about this duality of, do we follow this lockdown path and pattern and aim to be right at all costs? So remember, Mercury is about messaging. So are you messaging that I'm going to be right, I'm going to be right, I'm going to be right, and in order for me to be right, that means everybody else has to be wrong? That's really untrue, right? And so it's about being aware of structured things that tell you one way is right and there's no other way. And I think this is the mental block of, the downfall of Taurus is being so stubborn. We can't be told to do anything. We can't be pushed into anything. We can't be hurried into anything. And so there's a mental block about being told some things that are for your best and greatest good that you are really resisting. 5 is change. And it's interesting too, there are 2 major arcana cards here. So these are major elements in a shift energetically in our life that we're dealing with in this Mercury retrograde. And they're positive, right? Everything's for the positive and for the greater good if we choose that. But to be on the lookout for this idea that because I am right, then you are wrong. I mean, this is why I teach the way I do on the mat and in fitness and in workouts and in movement, because we have a physical body, muscles, ligaments, and tendons, and they're built to move certain ways, right? So there's a right to that. Like, you can't get a hinge joint to really move in a circular position, right? So just out of function. However, the amount of hinge and the degree of hinge, or the amount of load you can, bear is different from person to person. So although there is a best way to work, there's not a right answer for each body. Does that make sense? Hopefully that will help. So there's a mental block about doing things a certain right way, perfectionism, being stubborn in those things, being unwilling to let those things go, and really allowing there to be duality in the world and to start to understand what it means that if you're right, someone else is not wrong. Or vice versa, just because, this is where we get to empathy and understanding and community and really being a country and people and souls, rather than skin and race and religions. And they can all be useful things. They exist, right? So it's not that we don't acknowledge them or participate in them. It's that they don't define us, okay? So I want to learn holy, beautiful lessons. I'll take this during this Mercury retrograde. 9 of Cups. We're supposed to learn that our wishes can be granted. I mean, this is wishes granted. This is, again, you toiled, you did it in good soil, you did it in good faith, you made something, you're putting good energy towards it, you waited, you were patient, maybe not always happily patient, but just longevity in it, right? Just kept going. And so the messaging and the learning is that wishes are granted. Things will happen in a good way, in a reward way, because you've put the effort in out of love. That's great. Okay, so then the extra card, because that's the full layout. The extra card is like what quality or what to work with in order to get the highest and greatest good out of these things, right? So we're trying to get past this mental block of if I am right, then somebody else is wrong. That's the mental block. And the subconscious block is that, you don't believe that you're worth a miracle, or you don't believe that people are going to come to support you, which is false, because they will. So what quality or what thing should we focus on in December to help get us through the hard times, to help us learn our lessons? Well, there you go. Abundance. It just kind of goes back to the simplicity of it. Just have faith, right? Trust, surrender. The universe is always conspiring on our behalf. That this month is, even though it's retrograde and it's supposed to be the die-off season, all signs are pointing to abundance and wishes granted. I dig that. That's beautiful. What a way to, end 2017. Okay? So in the month of December, focus on abundance, right? Because what you focus on expands. What you think about, you attract. What you think about and think of and own internally is what your life reflects. If you're focused on everything falling apart and nothing working, and that's what's going to end up happening, right? But if you focus on abundance and go, it's coming, it says my wishes are going to be granted, that's the lesson to learn. And if I do it in good faith and because I love it and because it means something to me, and I don't care if it means anything to anybody else, but I want it to mean things to other people because I want community, I want visibility. Everybody deserves abundance to be cared for, right? Food, water, shelter. It's just about knowing and continuing to focus on that everything we need is always provided for. Comes out of left field as long as we have faith. And are doing our effort. I am always focused on meeting divinity halfway. It's not that things just fall out of the sky into our lap because we made a wish. It's that we allow those miracles to happen because we've strived and worked towards it. We meet divinity halfway. Beautiful reading for December. Thank you so much for being here for this reading. I love you very much, and I will see you next month.